Imagine a stormy night in Connecticut, 1882. The sky turns purple, thunder rattles the windows, and rain lashes against the cobblestones. While most people run for cover, something strange is happening at the local church. The bell tower isn't just getting wet, it is humming. In the damp basement, crude wires run from the steeple to a jar of bubbling chemicals. Suddenly, lightning strikes nearby, and a row of dim electric bulbs flickers to life. For a terrifying moment, the storm isn't a threat, it is a fuel source. We're taught that church bells are simple musical instruments used to call people to prayer. But if you dig into the forgotten patent archives of the late 19th century, you find a darker story. Engineers once looked at these massive bronze structures and didn't see religion, they saw receivers. They saw tons of conductive metal suspended high in the air, perfectly positioned to harvest static electricity from the clouds. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This is the true story of a Victorian smart grid that almost existed. It is about the inventors who tried to turn God's house into a power plant, and the deadly reason we stopped. To understand why, you have to look at the metal. To an engineer in the 1800s, a church bell was a technological marvel. It is a massive object sitting at the highest point of a town, isolated from the ground. Most importantly, it is made of bronze, an alloy that is mostly copper. Copper is one of the best conductors on Earth. Essentially, every church had a giant conductive antenna reaching up towards the charged clouds, doing nothing for most of the day. In the mid-19th century, the race for electricity was on. Batteries were weak, and inventors were desperate for power. They noticed that during thunderstorms, church bells would sometimes ring on their own. It wasn't a ghost, it was physics. The buildup of atmospheric charge was inducing a reaction in the metal. The bells were acting as giant capacitors. While most people feared this, a few inventors asked a dangerous question. Instead of letting that lightning hit the tower and vanish, what if we caught it? Enter John Trowbridge. In 1882, he filed a patent that reads like science fiction. He proposed a system where the church bell acted as the positive terminal of a massive atmospheric battery. He designed a circuit connecting the bell to a switchboard. In harvest mode, the system diverted atmospheric charge into primitive storage batteries. We have records of this being tested in a church in Hartford, Connecticut. The concept was wild. As a storm approached, the voltage potential skyrocketed. The bell collected the charge, sending it down into the basement. A report from 1884 claims they successfully powered a lighting system for evening services. The light of the church literally powered by the heavens. But there was a catch. Atmospheric electricity is unstable. It's an avalanche, not a river. You might get nothing for weeks and then get 1,000,000 volts in a split second. The equipment would overheat and the batteries would often fry. It was valid engineering, but it was suicidal. The biggest problem was the human element. In the 1800s, a real person stood in the tower holding a wet rope connected to the bell. When these systems were active, the bell ringer was essentially holding a live wire. There are horrific accounts from Vermont of bell ringers being thrown across the room. One man received a shock so severe it knocked him unconscious, while the bell above him rang once without being touched. The charge had found the quickest path to the ground, through the bell. This is why the Sky Battery failed. It's hard to hire staff when the job involves potential electrocution. But they didn't stop there. By 1890, inventors like Thomas Davies shifted focus from lightning to motion. He thought, that bell is a giant pendulum. Davies wrapped a bell in copper coils and placed magnets around it. It was a dynamo.
Every time the bell swung, it generated a current. They installed a prototype in Swansea, Wales, to power an electric clock, and it worked. The motion of the call to prayer was converted into electricity. So why don't we use this today? Because physics is cruel. When you extract electricity from a moving object using magnets, you create magnetic drag. The bell became harder to ring, feeling like it was moving through molasses. Worse, it ruined the sound. The magnetic field dampened the vibration, turning the clear ring into a dull thud. They had turned a musical instrument into a generator, destroying its primary purpose. We stopped wiring churches to the clouds, not because of a conspiracy, but because of safety and quality. Once we learned to burn coal for consistent electricity, waiting for a storm seemed ridiculous. But there is a lingering fascination here. These engineers proved that our buildings could be more than just decorations. They saw the world as a circuit board. Today, as we build skyscrapers that harvest wind energy, we are finally doing what John Trowbridge tried to do in 1882. He was just 150 years too early. The next time you hear a church bell, don't just listen, look at the tower. You are looking at a decommissioned machine, a relic from a brief moment when we tried to steal fire from the gods and decided it was just a little too hot to handle.